Hello and welcome to A Little Crafting. My name is Annie and I am recording this from Surrey in the UK. Today is the 7th of March 2021, so we are still in lockdown here in the UK, so I've had a lot of time to do lots of crafting, including knitting, weaving, sewing and hand dyeing most recently. So this is my bi-weekly podcast where I talk about all of those things that I've been making, and I also do every other week a random video on something that I know about or something that I enjoy. So let's get going today. You can find me on Instagram as a_little_crafting, and you can find me on Ravelry as Ankiwoo. And all the details for the episode will be down below, so I'll post any links or any descriptive elements that are needed for a bit more information in the description box. Let's start with what I am wearing today, and that is the Throwback cardigan by Andrea Mowry. And this is in several different colours. I was knitting this, I think, at the end of last year. I don't feel like I'm keeping track of the time at the moment, it's really bad. So I think I finished this fairly early on in my kind of podcasting. This is knit out of West Yorkshire Spinners Croft Aran, and the colours are, the main one is Belmont, which is the red. Then in the colour work we've got Feltar, which is the green, Melby, which is the orange, and the Tweed one, which is kind of specks of blue and green, is Eswick. And I do really like this yarn, however it does pill quite easily. It's a very soft Shetland yarn, so maybe not so good for garments, but I have worn this a lot recently. And I absolutely love the colour work. I love the colours that I've chosen, which were actually inspired by a couple of people who'd knit this sweater in the same colours already. And I found their projects on Ravelry. I do really like this cardigan, however I'm not sure about the front part with the button band. So I'm thinking about what I'm going to do with it. I think I'm going to go for putting a zip in, so that it kind of zips up like this, and yeah, it does up a bit more nicely than having the kind of button band flapping around without buttons on it. But what I've been doing is kind of wearing it folded over so that you can see kind of the edge of the button band, but not necessarily this section here which flaps about. So yeah, it's a super cozy cardigan, and because I've been working from home recently, it's been a great one just to chuck on when it's a bit chilly, which is lovely to have in this current scenario. So that's quickly what I've been wearing. Let's move on to what I've actually been making over the last couple of weeks. And as you know, if you've been a follower of the podcast for some time, I have challenged myself to knitting 52 hats this year for charity reasons. So either I'll donate the hats to charity, or I will raise funds to then donate money to charity. And as a result, I have been knitting quite a few hats, although I am a bit behind on my numbers at the moment. So therefore every week my first finished object is always going to be a hat. And this is the one that I've knit most recently, and that is the classic ribbed hat by Purl Soho. So this one, you'll recognise the colour. It's actually knit out of the Melby colourway that I've used in this sweater. So I had quite a few leftovers because the colour isn't that dominant in this colour work, and therefore I chose to knit a hat out of it. This Purl Soho pattern is a free pattern, and therefore you can just go to the Purl Soho website. It's a basic 1x1 rib with some decreases at the end for the crown, so it starts bottom up, and I always like to have the rib folded up at the bottom. I think that's how they show it in the picture as well. This is the hat that I've been knitting in the last week, and it is actually a pattern that I highly recommend on my top 10 hats video if you feel like having a watch of that. So yeah, super happy to be able to use up the leftover yarns, and I imagine once I wash this it will soften up nicely and be kind of the same feel as my cardigan, which will be lovely for someone to keep them warm in the winter this year. And that unfortunately is the only finished object I have at the moment, and that is because I've hit a bit of a snag with one of my hats in the last couple of weeks, which I will tell you about in a minute. So moving on to works in progress, and again, always going to have a hat on tie now. So the first one I'm going to show you is the one which I have had an issue with, and that issue is that I've run out of yarn. So obviously the 52 hats thing that I'm doing is to use up leftovers that I've got rather than buying more yarn. So I've got a bit of a snag with this one, and it would be great to find out what you guys think I should be doing. So I'll talk about the pattern first, and the pattern is the Field of Wildflowers hat by Joji Locatelli. Let me show you up close so that you can see the texture, because it's really pretty and it works so well with hand dyed yarns, so kind of more variegated speckled yarns. So it looks a bit like flowers sticking out of the ground, or sections of wheat poking up. So this I have knit out of a beige mystery yarn for the brim, and then the main body is knit out of Malabrigo Rios in the Denim colourway. And this is where I have an issue. So this is leftovers from the hat that I knit my husband, and I realised that actually I knit him a brim on his hat after I knit the main body of the hat, so there wasn't that much left, and I have run out of yarn of this colour. So I'm just thinking it's kind of going to ruin the look of the hat if I use a different colour for the top. I had a suggestion from my craft group that I should make a kind of ponytail hat, but I do think this is more of a kind of men's style hat, this particular one, because of the colours that I've used. So I was wondering, should I buy another ball of yarn, or should I finish it off in a different colourway, or should I don't know, finish it off as a hat with a hole in it, so more of a headband kind of hat? What do you guys think? Because I'm just going to leave it for now until I make a decision and then go from there. This hat I am knitting on 3.5mm needles, so I tend to have to go down a needle size, and these are my higher sharp interchangeable set, which I have gathered more and more of over the years. On a hat cable, which is a short one, I think that is a 16 or 18 inch depending on the tip length. I use a 4-inch length, so it will be 16 inches I think. So that's where I am with that work in progress. Again, I'm probably going to put this on the back burner for a little bit whilst I decide whether I should buy more yarn when I'm not really supposed to be buying much yarn, or finish it some other way. So that's hat number one from the last couple of weeks, and I actually started knitting that one before the orange classic ribbed hat. Then the second hat is one I cast on this weekend, and that is the Tamarugo by Anna Saskia. And this, I believe, is also a free pattern on Ravelry, so I'll link to that in the description below. And this I am actually also knitting out of some Malabrigo Rios. So this is actually leftover of the Colourway Azul Profundo, which I knit my On the Grass pullover in. That's a pattern by Joji Locatelli. Again, I'll link to that in the description. So it has these really lovely kind of slip stitch sections, or almost float sections, where you pull the floats across the front and then you pick them up on another row. So it creates a really nice effect. Again, quite good for hand dyed yarns, which this is, and I'm hoping this will look like a really lovely hat. This one I am knitting on a larger needle size, so this is actually 4.5mm needles for the body of the hat and 3.5mm needles for the brim. And again, I've got it on a hat interchangeable set, so a small circular wire for the central section. So that's one that I really like the look of, and it's a new to me pattern, so it's been good to try something new as well. I keep all of my hat needles when I'm knitting with them in these Knit Pro needle protectors. These are really great for the larger needle sizes because you could just pop your needles in and then it holds them like that when it's in the bag, and then you're not going to poke through anything and you're not going to lose all of your stitches off the needles. I have found, however, that on smaller needle sizes the needles don't fit very well in the slot, so they do tend to just fall out because there's quite a large slot at the end. So that is hat number 2 for the moment. I'm sure I will finish that one fairly quickly. So I think I have about 8 hats so far, and obviously 2 on the go, so that makes about 10. And I'll just keep going, do as much as I can as I go along this year. Then I have a work in progress that I've been knitting on for quite some time, since the beginning of the year. And that is my Boho Mosaic cardigan. I am keeping this in a Clara Rose Crafts bag, and this is getting very, very big. It's a bit unwieldy actually. So I'm going to try and show you as best I can, but basically I'm not sure if I had finished the front or the bottom yet so far, but it's looking absolutely lovely. So this is the base of the cardigan, and it's a super big kind of kimono style cardigan. It has these garter ridges, which are really lovely. And then I have just been chugging along with one of the sleeves over the last couple of weeks. So that is how the sleeve is looking. You'll see I've still got a kind of safety line, which is the scrap yarn. I'll take that out at the end probably. And I'm over halfway through the mosaic colourwork section at the bottom of the sleeve. So as you can see, the sleeve isn't all that long, but this is supposed to be quite a cosy kind of big cardigan, so I think that's absolutely fine. I'm continuing to call it my dressing gown cardigan, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how it looks at the end of it. Still to go, I've got the other sleeve and also the shawl collar, which will go on the front and will probably take me an absolute age because it will just be the same thing over and over again on a really big circumference to cover the entirety of the length of the sweater. I am knitting this on one of my favourite yarns, which is De Rerum Natura Gilliatt. This colour is the Nuit colourway. The grey is the Joyland colourway, and the white is the Poivre Blanc colourway. And I've got a ball of each, so 100 grams of the grey and the white, and I think 5 balls of the blue. So 7 balls of yarn in total, which is 700 grams of this worsted weight yarn. I am knitting the sweater again on my Higher Sharps interchangeable circulars. And that is on 3.75mm needles. Like I say, I tend to have to go down a needle size when I'm knitting, so I will often be knitting on a smaller needle than most people. And that's how that's getting on. So basically I've been quite monogamous in knitting this and trying to get through it so that I have a finished product fairly soon. So that's how that is going. And finally, I do have a 4th work in progress, and this is one that you haven't seen before. So the other day I decided that I was getting a bit annoyed with what I was knitting at the time, probably my sweater and also my my cowl that I'd been trying to get knit up, and I decided to cast on something new, and that is in this lovely yarn. I'll try and show you here. So this one here, and that is a yarn that I got from a kind friend in my craft group about 2 or 3 years ago now, I think, so quite some time ago, and I've been kind of saving it to find something that I really wanted to knit out of it, and I decided not to do socks just because I think it's absolutely beautiful and I quite like a shawl. So what I'm doing is actually knitting a hitchhiker shawl by who is it, Martina Bem, and this is a really great simple pattern. So you can see I've started it off here. There you go. So it's got these kind of points, and as you knit it gradually goes longer and longer, so it kind of creates an almost, I don't know, kind of a long shawl, I would say. I'm not sure how to describe the shape, but these little points, it's just in garter stitch, so really nice and simple to knit, just back and forth knit stitches. The yarn is Dragon Hill Studio in Chepstow sock, which is 75% BFL and 25% nylon, and the colour is Blue Anchor, but this was one dyed in 2017. So it's been some time kind of in my stash waiting to be used for something useful, but I decided I want some more kind of lightweight shawls, and this is the perfect kind of thing to do a one skein shawl and wear it quite a lot. I also can just use up all the yarn in this pattern, which is lovely, and I don't have leftovers that I have to deal with. So that is that one. I'm knitting it on, again, high sharp, surprise surprise, 2.5mm needles, so again a fairly small needle size, but I'm hoping that it will kind of look absolutely lovely at the end. And I'm actually keeping this in a yarn bowl that I got years ago. This is a yarn bowl by Little Wren Pottery on Etsy. I think she still makes them, but I love the leaf design that she's put on here, and just the neutral colour goes really well with everything, and I think it's a really kind of hefty yarn bowl. It's absolutely lovely. So I got it, I think 3 or 4 years ago now, but hopefully she still makes them if you want to look her up. Right, so that's all my works in progress for now, and I realise it's going to be quite a quick episode today just because I've been fairly monogamous in terms of my knitting. But let me talk about my acquisitions. So I have only got one acquisition this week, and that is a lovely skein from my friend. We've done a sock yarn swap, so I bought her a yarn and she bought me a yarn, and we swapped them this morning. So this is a yarn by Pigment and Ply, which is pigmentandply.com. It's 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon, so kind of standard sock yarn. And I think the colourway is Wenceslas, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But it's this really lovely kind of muted set of colours, but all kind of merging into each other. So if I can get that to focus, there you go. So you've got kind of some greens and blues at the end, kind of some purples, some greys, little pops of kind of olive colour. Then at the other end you've got kind of my favourite part, which is the kind of reds and oranges and a little bit of green and a little bit of kind of mustard yellow. It just looks so colourful and lovely, but not too bright, I don't think. And I will probably be making some socks with these because that was kind of the purpose of the yarn swap. I bought her some yarn from Adventures in Yarncraft, who I absolutely love the yarn from as well. So excited to get this cast on. I might wind this up this afternoon and just do a little swatch to see how it knits up, because I'm really excited to try it. Finally, I wanted to talk a bit about my yarn dyeing adventures and the fact that I've been doing a lot, that's for sure. So I've been trying to experiment and kind of create a range of colours that I like, and sometimes that's been working and sometimes it hasn't. So to give you a bit of a rundown, I've been buying all my yarn from yarnundyed.net, who are, I believe, UK based, but they do ship elsewhere in the world. And I've bought jacquard acid dyes from a company called Empress Mills, and also from George Whale, I think is how it's said, which is a company near to me here. And I'll link to all of those in the description below. So let me show you a bit of what I've been getting up to. So a couple of weeks ago, I'm not sure if I actually showed this on the episode, I did a few little testers, and this was supposed to be a burnt orange. This was supposed to be a burnt orange, but it came out far too yellow. However, I think this is a lovely gold colour, and I'm going to pass this on to someone in my craft group. I still haven't been able to get the burnt orange to work. I'm going to give it a try again next week, but mostly I'm testing things out on mini skeins so that I don't, if I mess up, it's not the end of the world. So that's one thing that I've done so far. I have a massive bag of different things here. So other things I have done, this is a lovely, lovely blue colour. It was supposed to be dark teal, but I actually ended up loving how this turned out, and I've written down the recipe so that I can remake this lovely blue. I'm calling it Caribbean blue just because it reminds me of that. And this one is just a lighter shade to use up the rest of the dye at the end. These are DK minis, so I'll get lots of use out of these doing brims on hats and things like that. Then I've got some accidental neons which are completely blowing out in the camera. So basically I was trying to make coral, and I didn't read that the instructions were to use 1/4 of the dye to make a coral, and I used the full amount, and therefore I got this lovely bright pink and kind of bright orange colour from the dye pot for those. But I don't know, I'll think about what I do with them, see if I can find a use for those. Most of them, so 3 of them are DK minis and 1 of them is a sock weight one. So that actually could work for a heel, cuff and toe situation there. Otherwise I've got some lovely sunny yellow. Again, not really my colour, but I was just using up the leftovers of some golden ochre that I had in the pot. And then here is my burgundy, which is my favourite so far. Absolutely lovely. So again, I've got a sock weight mini skein. This is 85% superwash merino and 15% nylon high twist. And then this one's the same but not high twist and in DK. And then I've got a lovely pink, which was using up all of the leftovers, which actually I really like that colour. I wouldn't normally go for baby pink, but it's not bad. Here you go. What else have I got? So these were my other attempts at a kind of burnt orange, that's the colour. So I think this looks kind of foxtail-y. That was with a bit more orange in than the kind of golden colour. This is gold again, but on DK. And this is what the pumpkin orange, which is the dye I've been using, comes out at when you use it on its own. So I'm going to have to find a way of working out how to do burnt orange with the colours that I have. I've actually ordered a darker orange than this because I think this is quite a yellow orange relative to other ones that I might be able to get. Okay. And then I've also got this lovely green So this one turned out really nicely. I'm really happy with that. Yeah, so this is again a DK mini, but really dark green. Looks really nice. Reminds me of my friend Yvonne. So those were the mini skeins I dyed a couple of weeks ago, but I've now done a little bit more dyeing this week as well. So I have some fresh batches of yarn to show you. I did have a bit of an accident on Friday afternoon, which meant that I burnt some of my yarn. So this was originally kind of a really bright acid green, as you can see. And I decided that to kind of mute it, I would try and dip dye it in some turquoise. And actually I really like this kind of vivid green colour, so I might try blending those two together for the future. But I did end up with some burning because of what happened. So there's an end or two basically that have just been seared off, that I don't know, I can still use the yarn, it's just I can't really give it to anyone else, I suppose. And the same happened with the sock weight as well, which has had the same situation because I was dyeing them in the pot at the same time. So that was a shame, but I didn't burn the house down and I only ruined 2 mini skeins, so it's not the end of the world. Yeah, and I do think it's taught me a bit about how to mix the colours. So maybe I'll do this kind of bright green with some turquoise in it to get this lovely, lovely greeny turquoise colour in the future. And then I have a whole load of other ones to show you as well. So I also did a bit of, well, what was supposed to be speckling, I would say, and I was kind of testing things out a bit. So what I had planned to do was, with some yarn I dyed kind of just flat grey, I wanted to speckle some different colours over the top. But I think I was either a bit heavy-handed or I had too much water on the yarn or something along those lines. It's ended up just incredibly variegated instead. So I do really like it. There you go. I do really like the yarn, but I'm not sure what I'll do with it in mini skein form. But the colours are lovely and I would happily like make a hat out of some DK yarn in this colour, or you know, a cowl or something kind of big and cosy. So we'll see what I do. Maybe I could stripe it actually, I'm not sure how that would work. So I've got these 2 sock weight skeins and also these 2 DK weight in the same. So this is speckled with, I think, golden ochre and some turquoise as well. So you get this really lovely green effect with both of those 2 mixed together. But I need to practice some speckling. So if anyone has any advice on speckles and how to make them work, I'd really appreciate your help. I've tried a couple of times and it hasn't really been effective. But I think maybe drying the yarn as much as possible, using dry dye powder and a lot of citric acid from what I've heard. So I'll continue to experiment and see what happens, but we'll wait until next weekend to carry on. Then other ones have kind of, that have been a bit of a consequence of other bits of dyeing. So from the really light or the end of the turquoise pot, I got this lovely kind of minty green colour, which is really nice. And then an even lighter one just on the sock weight yarn that's kind of very, very subtle, but also very, very pretty. And I'll probably use this one for heels and toes on socks. And then this lovely green was the effect of the speckling experiment. So basically the leftover yarn from that, so the golden ochre mixed with the turquoise, this is the result of that combination, and it's a gorgeous spring green. So I want to replicate this in future because I think it's perfect, the perfect time of year to be doing that. And then I just did a couple of pinks as well, just basic pink, nothing added to it. I think it's a magenta colour actually, specifically. So this is the DK skein, and this is the sock weight one. And there we go. I think the pink and the green goes very well together for spring. Let's see, and then finally there's this very, very light pinky colour. It basically is cream with a subtle shade of pink on it. So I might try speckling something on this one. I'm not 100% sure. I do really like the very subtle pink, but it could do with a little bit more colour, I think. So we shall see what I come up with next time. And then lastly, just to show you that I did dye some full skeins of yarn as well. So this happened with my neon experiment. This is a skein of 100% sustainable non-superwash merino, and this is a DK weight, but this was also supposed to be coral, but it came out very flashy orange. I will obviously still use this, and I do actually really like it. I'm just not sure whether I could tone it down with another colour perhaps. I'm thinking actually those two maybe in some colour work would be really nice. So this is a Bird Street yarn. We'll see. And then the other two, so I actually was trying to dye some grey, and it turns out the gunmetal colour was a bit blue, but I really love the effect of this skein. So this is a mixture of silver grey and gunmetal, a very tiny bit of gunmetal, and I had a bit of a splash accident here, but I actually think it looks really cool. So this is going to one of my friends. And then this is my absolute favourite, which is a burgundy. It is darker than it's showing up on screen. It's not quite as bright. I think the sun is definitely helping the brightness today. But this is the same as the mini skeins, but on a full skein of Polworth fingering weight yarn, and it's absolutely beautiful. I think I might want a sweater's quantity in this, but I am about to also cast on a sweater that is basically this colour. So let's see what I do. Love it though. Want more of this in my life. So yeah, I'm keen to keep trying different colours. I have a whole stack of mini skeins to use up, so in my experiments, and then I will only dye the full skeins when I'm confident that it's going to work, so that I don't end up with crazy colours that I'm not going to use. But it's fun. I'm definitely enjoying it. It's certainly sometimes difficult to get the colour that you want, but it's also quite cool to get a surprise as well. I won't be dyeing loads of neon in my future. I think I've learned what I need to do to prevent that from happening, so we'll see how I get on. I'll probably try and do a bit every weekend, and if you're interested I can also record a bit of footage each time to show you what I'm getting up to. And I think that is everything that I want to talk about this week, so a bit of a shorter episode. I hope you are getting on okay in these COVID times. I'm doing fine with my family. We're all happy. My parents got vaccinated recently, so they're on the way to being okay and able to do more. And otherwise just looking forward to spring finally setting in, I think, so that I can sit in the garden and knit or read and enjoy the weather. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to like and subscribe to my channel. I aim to have an episode out every couple of weeks, and like I said, a little shorter video in between about some sort of topic that I want to record about. So I hope you have a lovely couple of weeks, and I will see you soon. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.